Welcome, Heartache Connoisseur listeners. This is your host, Marty Carpenter, coming to you from flyover country. And I hope you had a great 4th of July. I did. What'd we do? We watched some fireworks, ate some summer food. I stuffed my face with watermelon and potato chips, which is in keeping with my tradition this time of year. What else? We did some hiking and just generally had a great time together as a family. And so yeah, I had a week off last week, but I'm back with you today. And I have a great guest today. I'm excited to share this interview with you. His name is Kirk Cheyney, and he's a fellow from around here in my hometown here of Iowa City, and he has what's called a Fab Lab. This is a location where you can basically go get a membership, and they've got all the tools to make anything and everything you could possibly imagine. And it's a nonprofit organization, and it's meant to teach people skills and give them confidence and really kind of bring to light the idea of making things yourself and all that entails and how it makes you feel. And so I just, I believe in his mission. I think he's exactly the right guy for the job. And he's got a great story of how he started this thing and how he's getting it going. And he needs our help too. So if you feel moved to participate with him in whatever way by making a donation or becoming a member of this, feel free to do so. And there'll be contact information later in the broadcast for you. But anyway, here is Kirk Cheyney telling us about the Steam Fab Lab in Iowa City. So I wanted to have you on because you're doing a project that I find really fascinating. Yeah, you mentioned Jimmy DiResta the other day, and I became a big fan of his even back when he had that show on what was that, like the DIY channel or something. Yeah. And then that all kind of went sideways for him, I guess. But then now he has this really successful YouTube channel, and he just makes things.
Right.
And it kind of got me in contact with this concept of the maker, and that's sort of a cultural phenomenon. What's your take on that right now?
I think that it's one of those things that people don't kind of know why they're doing it exactly, but you're right, it is a cultural phenomenon, and I don't think it's going away. The problem is that we are built, like natural selection has made us need to tinker, improve our environment, and be creative. That's how we survived, even though we're slow and tasty. So
right.
So it's sort of a primal need in us to make things and improve things. And in the especially last 20 years, we've been really told not to, just go buy a new one, throw that away. It's
not worth fixing.
It's not worth fixing. Just don't bother with that. Just go buy a new one. It's a cheap table, buy another cheap table. It's fine.
The IKEA phenomenon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love IKEA.
Yeah, me too.
I will spend like 8 hours in there.
Sure.
And it's designed so that you will, of course.
Right.
But there is an allure to, look at, an entire bed frame for $42. Let's do this,
Yeah.
But at the same time, like we have a big Amish community around here.
Right.
And my wife has worked with them on various projects for the college. And when they get a table, they'll research for like 2 or 3 years. And if they don't build it themselves, they buy one that's been handmade and crafted, and they'll save up $2,000-$3,000 to buy this new kitchen table. And the reason they do is because the old kitchen table, which their great-great-great-grandfather made, finally wore out. And this one is designed so that their great-great-great-grandchildren will have that table. They don't throw things away. They buy quality. They make quality.
Right.
It's a totally different, viewpoint. So,
well, I'm going to just tell you what I think I observed that this thing is, this phenomenon, and you elaborate.
Sure.
So, I mean, you might be listening to this, and if you don't know what we're talking about, you're like, yeah, people make things. Yeah, why is that a thing? We've been doing that forever. I don't understand why you're naming this. And the reason is I think that because it's so easy to obtain whatever you want relatively cheaply, that the ethic of making things has had to become an intentional pursuit. It's not something that's necessarily required of us to survive anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And so there are groups of people like you, like myself, that organize into communities and locations and such, and put together spaces, events, conferences, and all kinds of different gatherings to promote, engage in, connect with other folks that are engaged in the pursuit of making things. Mm-hmm. And is that about right? Did I get it?
Kind of, yeah. It gets into another one of the reasons we survived. We're herd animals. We thrive in groups, and so one of the other downsides of the way our society has changed in the last few years with the internet and cell phones, we're so connected that we don't feel like we need to physically be around people. But
substitute connection.
Exactly. So we do. So we're more connected than ever and lonelier than ever. Mm-hmm. And so because we have this primal need to make and this primal need to be in groups of like-minded people, they sort of have merged together. So the maker movement isn't just about building stuff, but about finding your tribe. Those people that get you on a visceral level, and you don't have to, you never have to search for a conversation or whatever. You can just, there's always something to talk about. And if not, you can sit in comfortable silence because you understand each other. Yeah. And that's something we're really missing with the Facebook society that we've got. A
sense of community and connection and like-mindedness. I talk about these values all the time on this program. I mean, I really feel the same as you do about that. And it's one of the things that when I'm working with somebody who's struggling with depression, anxiety, and that sort of thing, who's having a really difficult time getting by, often that's a major piece that's missing. And it's really hard to find something to offer them, really. I mean, life's busy and you got responsibilities and you're not constantly thrust into social situations. It's really hard to find a community of people. And so that's a great service in and of itself, to just simply give people a place to feel connected. I know that I personally have gotten into woodworking and that sort of thing, largely because of the sense of, well, partly just the shoddiness of the things in my environment. Yeah. I go to put my coffee down on the side table and it's shaking, and I go to fix it and I can't because it's particle board and the screws rip out when I try to tighten them. And, it just really got to me. And then I also, as a person who works mostly with their mouth and their mind, found that I really derive deep satisfaction from working with my hands as well. But yes, there is this longing to sometimes share that with somebody and calling friends and like, hey, do you need to fix anything? I've got a shop over here,
right.
Come play with me, that kind of thing. So tell me what you're all about. I mean, you've got this project. Let us know what it is.
Cool. So it's called the Steam Fab Lab. Fab Lab is short for Fabrication Laboratory. A little bit of background first is Fab Labs are a global thing. They were created by Neil Gershenfeld at MIT around 2007. And actually it started out because he wants to, there was a digital revolution, computers that could program computers. But there was no physical thing. There were no machines that made machines that can make things. So he wanted to do experiments with that. So he bought a bunch of really high-tech equipment, CNC machines, laser cutters, 3D printing, that kind of stuff. And this was in 2007. So
not that long ago, but the tech has come a long way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the cheapest 3D printer was probably in the $80,000 range back then, so he bought these so that he could start making robots that made robots, pretty much. That was his goal. But
this is how Terminator starts, right? That, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Skynet. Here we are.
Yeah.
So he didn't have any time to do it because people kept coming in and saying, "Oh, a laser cutter. I've always wanted to learn a laser cutter. Can you teach me?" And so he spent all his time teaching people how to do this. So he started a class called How to Make Almost Anything. And it was at MIT, of course, so a lot of people loved it. And you just got taught all these high-tech machines. So then he thought, these are all people from MIT. What happens if we take these and go to somewhere where it's not a bunch of professors and straight A students? So he went to places like sub-Saharan Africa and Iceland and things, and he just dropped a Fab Lab on a village for 2 to 6 weeks, and just taught the villagers or whomever was around how to do these things. And he was just amazed at all of the things that people, who had never even seen a computer before, would do. There's one story he tells about a 12-year-old little girl who made an integrated circuit, and she wouldn't let anyone leave. They were supposed to close at 6. She wouldn't let them leave until she was finished. And he was the only person surprised in the room when she turned it on and it worked. And he said that computer science professors at MIT said they couldn't have done that in 3 months with all of their grad students helping. And this 12-year-old girl did it in a couple of weeks when she didn't barely know what a computer was. The Fab Lab, the prototype Fab Lab anyway, it didn't give that girl the skills. I mean, it did. But what it really did was give the world her genius. She would have grown up without computers and done any normal thing that someone in her environment would. But she wouldn't have created this thing, and the opportunity, the ability to use those, the access.
Well, that's a life-changing experience for that little girl, is it not?
Right.
I mean, she looks in the mirror every day now and goes, I can make an integrated circuit.
Right.
And that changes your decision-making from then on.
Exactly. And so after he did this a few times, somewhere between 2 and 6, I don't remember, he decided to just create this other center. It's called the Center for Bits and Atoms. And he said, there are Fab Labs. You can make one, whatever. So fast forward to me. I was in engineering school. I'd gone back. I'm a interesting story of myself, I suppose.
Engineers are already pretty non-traditional by nature. Are you saying we're a non-traditional engineering?
I'm a definitely non-traditional engineer. Yeah. And we can get into that a little later, but I'll go off track. So anyway, I learned about the Fab Labs around sophomore year, and I just followed them, just because I was interested. I got a big boy job and everything at the university after I graduated, and things.
What year is this approximately, you think?
I graduated in 2011.
Okay.
So yeah, I wrote to MIT and I said, you guys need to build something out here. You need to make a Fab Lab, because I was bored. I had a great job. I loved what I did.
Where were you working?
I was at the University of Iowa Hospitals.
Oh, okay.
And so I wrote to MIT, said, you need to make one of these things out here, because I love my job, but all I did was sit at the computer and collate data. And so I need to build things. I have to tinker. Before I went into engineering, I was an artist. So they wrote back finally. It took a few months and said, that's not how it works. If you want a Fab Lab, you have to build it, and so I have the most amazing wife in the world. She allowed me to go back to school. And so when I told her I wanted to quit my job and start a Fab Lab, she thought about it and said, okay. So she allowed me to quit a really good engineering job and start a nonprofit from scratch with no real plan except this was the right thing to do. And it's all I've done since 2012.
Wow.
So I've been building this for 5 years, and due to zoning laws and all of that stuff and having to learn all this stuff, it took me quite a few years to get up and running. We were up once, but not running. The place we chose didn't have the right zoning for wood shop and welding and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So the city said, you can display your stuff, but you can't open. So that was fun. And then when we finished out that lease, we sort of packed up in a truck, and I we survived for the next few years. I would teach 3D printing at schools, and I would do outreach, and we had summer camps and things like that. But there was no physical location until last year when we finally opened. And so we've been open for a little more than a year, and we haven't advertised or anything, but we're up in the 80s for memberships, and we're paying for ourselves. We're a nonprofit, but
you can see viability there. It sounds like now.
With absolutely nothing except Facebook saying, "Hey, we're here." We've got all these people showing up and making things and creating these awesome projects, and it's paying for itself with no outside help. We're all completely funded by the community already.
So you had an engineering job that paid well, was safe, you had benefits. You said, "Hey, honey, I want to do this other thing that's that I don't know anything about and take this huge risk." It took 5 years to even get to a point of feeling like the little shaky leaf wasn't going to blow away in the wind.
Oh, I knew it wouldn't before then, but it took that many years for everyone else to see that.
I see. So now you've got it to a place where it's looking good. And what have been, I suppose, the biggest challenges for you personally through this process?
The biggest challenge has been convincing people, telling them what it is and convincing them that it's something that's worth it. We've been systematically told, "Don't fix that, don't make that, just buy it."
I see.
And so,
okay, so one of your main obstacles is just the common belief of the average person about stuff in general.
Right. And that, and also the explaining what it is. So now I can do it really well. I can explain it. Here's my elevator pitch. The Fab Lab is like a gym. Instead of building your muscles, you build everything else. So we have all the tools you need to make anything. And I'm being pretty literal here. We draw the line at thermonuclear weapons. But beyond that, you can make it. And so you pay a monthly fee, and we teach you the basics and safety for all the tools you want to use. And then we step back and let you do it. There's always someone there to help. We can help lift heavy things. We can give you pointers on things, but it's your project. And because it's your project, we also don't claim any ownership on it. You make the next pet rock. We hope that you remember we're a nonprofit when you make $1 million, but we don't take any sort of cut on it. We'll help you get the patent even. We just want you to make things because that's how we become great. So,
and tell me why you value that so much. I mean, you've given us some clues, but what is it? I mean, this sounds like this concept really makes your soul sing. What is this for you?
It's those things we've lightly touched on already. The tribe. I've been sort of an outsider. I've always been just a little bit weird at any point in my life. I was a reading nerd.
Aren't we all? Right?
Yeah. But I was a nerd who loved to read and didn't get good grades. I wasn't good at math or science. But I have a twin sister, and she was really close to valedictorian. She was really good at school, so was my older sister. I was C's and B's. And it's because I really didn't care and have any real reason.
I'm sure it wasn't interesting to you.
Right.
Your mind was busy, and I'm sure you were learning things.
I don't know. Yes and no. Like, I also remember the day when I was around 27 that my brain turned on. Like, there was a morning that I woke up and everything clicked. It's like suddenly the world was in color. And since that day,
did you go on Adderall or?
No, I just woke up and there it was, man. It was great.
That's cool.
And I don't know what it was. My theory is, the human brain develops until about that age. Yeah. So once it was done being
critical mass of
sort
myelination,
of
and yeah,
right. And so my brain just started coming up with ideas, just what ifs and maybe this and little improvements and just huge things to improving the salt shaker, whichever thing. And they just pop up, sometimes 2 a day, sometimes 100 a day. And it's very adaptive too. I don't think, I need to build this whole new thing. I think, okay, I'll need a plunger and a couple of corn nuts and some foil, and and whatever that is, it turns into a, automatic car washer or whatever the hell it is, So because of that, I've always been creative, but now it was like creative on steroids kind of thing. So I had to start making things, tinkering with things. And due to my previous experience, I wasn't great at it. My dad didn't really have a wood shop, or he isn't crafty, I suppose. And
so it wasn't until your late 20s that it even came upon you to start using your hands to make things from scratch.
Right. Yeah. I remember a conversation in 10th grade with a friend in high school about building prosthetics, like those prosthetics that Luke Skywalker had,
Sure.
where you can feel it. And we're getting to that point now. But since that conversation, I'd always wanted to build prosthetics. But bad at math, bad at science, C's, there was no way I was going to be an engineer. I didn't even really know what an engineer was. So because I was okay at art, my plan was to go and work for Jim Henson's Creature Shop. Actually, I could make, those really realistic gorillas from Girl in the Mist, and I could, they do a lot of the animatronic puppetry and that kind of thing, close to prosthetics. It was something I could do. So that was kind of my goal when I was a, youngin'. So I did get accepted to a really good art school, but I couldn't afford it. So I went to Kirkwood and got most of my degree in art and theater, sculpture and theater stuff. And then, predictably, I was 19, so I met a girl, and I dropped out, never got the degree. And I had just jobs for the next decade. I worked at Hy-Vee, I worked at Walmart, I worked at hospitals as a secretary. I was a janitor, I was a dude who drove the armored car. Worked at gas stations. I just sort of did the things that, that was pretty much my life. I was going to have a normal life with normal things and do normal stuff, Then my brain turned on. It got harder because, here I was with all these ideas, and I didn't have the means to do it.
A sense of wasting your own potential.
Sort of, but at the same time, when you're, working two jobs and trying to feed a family, and you've got I lived in Nebraska at the time, and so the girl I was with had 3 kids from a previous marriage, and so I worked 2 jobs. We were on food stamps. We, went to the food bank to eat. I was always like, should I pay the rent or should I pay the electricity? It was, it was not the easiest life.
That's
in the
hard.
world. And I try and remember that as much as possible, because now things are very different in my world. But I try and remember that I was the people I'm trying to help.
Yeah.
And I still am. I'm just luckier.
Yeah.
Or I've worked harder or whatever, but at least 50% of it is luck. Anyway, then I met my wife before she was my wife. And we were talking one night, and she said, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And I said, I'd build prosthetics. That's always been my dream since sophomore year of high school. She said, yeah, go for it. I'll pay the bills. You go back to school. So I was given a second chance at age 28, and I went back to college. I had to take 2 years of math before they got to math that engineers consider to be math. I went to Kirkwood for the first 2 years, and got all the stuff I needed to become a sophomore, and then transferred to the university as a engineering student, and graduated in 2011 as a biomedical engineer. With a focus on musculoskeletal.
Brother, that is a rare story.
It's
way to go.
And it's my wife is amazing. Wow. I couldn't have done it without her.
Yeah.
And then a year later, I convinced her that I should quit my good job that she's been paying me to get for the last 5 years. and start a nonprofit from scratch with zero money, talent, or ability. But what I do have is I have my creative mind, and I have passion, and I've got the unshakable faith that it's the right thing to do. And
Was there a moment in time where that came into focus, where you were like, I just have to go for broke on this? I mean, what was that process like for you mentally?
I wanted to do it, and I was, playing around with the idea and that kind of thing. But then there was one point where I was looking around at spaces, and at this point, the space I was looking for was, about 2,000 square feet. I was looking for a regular fab lab. Normal fab labs are all the high-tech equipment. That's about it. 3D printing, laser cutting, CNC machines, robotics and electronics. The high-tech stuff where you can build anything, but you need a lot of training to do it. You kind of have to be an engineer to have the skill set to run a lot of these things. So that was my plan at first. So I was looking around. I went to a mall and said, "Hey, this, here's my idea, blah blah blah." And the manager was having a bad day, manager of the mall, and so he slipped me a 1-page thing to fill out for like a store sign-up sheet, and I could tell that it was like the brush-off page. Here you go, kid, leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
There was no interest there or whatever. So I got really ticked off. Went home, did some internet research, found the owners of the mall, found an email for them, and wrote this 2-page passionate email about the goal of the Fab Lab and how we're going to change the face of everything, and how it's, how it's
What mall?
Sycamore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back when they were Sycamore. And within 15 minutes, I got an email back from the mall representative, and he said, let's talk about this and everything. And by the end of the next week, the mall owners had said, "We love this. Von Mauer is gone. We'll give you all of Von Mauer, about 26,000 square feet, I think.
Wow.
And we'll give you $250,000 to start." And,
You're kidding.
And yeah, that's when I said, well, looks like this
Jiminy Christmas.
This isn't just me, So I was really excited.
No rent? I mean, they're just like, here, take the space.
Well, there was definitely going to be rent, but they were going to give us a deal so that we could get started.
Okay, but it's still huge. I mean, that's massive.
Huge, yeah. So things were going great, and we started, we got a small business loan to start build out and all of this stuff. And then I gave an interview, and we were front page news, actually. He said, new Fab Lab going in. You can build anything there, blah, blah, blah. Front page, my picture smiling at everyone. And that is how the city found out about the Fab Lab, which is the backwards way of doing it. But I didn't know that because no experience. So then they said, yeah, that's, a welding and wood shop thing in a mall, kind of the wrong zone. So we went back and forth with them on it, and they win because city.
Sure.
And I can't say that they're wrong, and at the same time, like, they're wrong.
I understand what you mean.
So, but they're also the ones who make the rules, and it's their job to make sure that the city is safe. So whether or not I think they're wrong doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So because we couldn't open in the mall, $250,000 gone. The mall said, we'll let you keep this interim space for this year, so all of that excitement and potential and drive and all the contracts we'd started and everything, just, water on a hot stove.
Wow, you must have felt like you got punched in the gut.
Yeah, it was. And plus we'd also gotten a small business loan we had to now pay back, even though we had no way of making money. Mm-hmm. But what we did have was 8,000 square feet and a built out space and all this equipment and more equipment coming in every every day, every week. We'd get people coming in and saying, wow, what is this place? And you'd explain, they'd be, that's amazing. And people would hunt for us. I heard about this place. So let me see. Can I become a member? No, you can't. Sorry. But I'm sure you'll be able to someday. And then the lease ran out, and we aren't going to renew a lease that we would never be able to open in. So we pretty much rented a truck, shoved it jam-packed full of our stuff, and then put more stuff in my garage and my basement and some of my board members' garages and basements. And we just, we had all this equipment and nowhere to put it for about 2 years. We survived by, teaching at schools and doing summer camps and working with the city on small projects. And, when you only have to pay to keep the storage space alive, it's not hard to exist.
But not exactly your vision coming true before your eyes.
Exactly. And when you're not paying yourself, it's also easier. So all I had to do was make enough to keep the stuff stored. But I was still working an average of 60 hours per week trying to get it built. And so for the next 2 years, that's what I did. I can't even tell you what I did for those 60 hours a week, but I was almost never home because I was always in meetings and trying to build coalitions, and donations are still coming in. And so we're just shoving them everywhere we can. So yeah, fast forward for a while. And
what year is this here where you're kind of out of a spot and just holding on to the gear and all that?
2015 to 2017.
Okay, so not long ago.
No.
All right.
And then last February, 2017, I got a call out of the blue from the owner of the building I'm in now, and he said, I noticed your stuff and noticed, I saw your website, and are you still looking for a spot? And so we got together, and we, the spot looked good. I mean, I've always said bare minimum 15,000 square feet. That is as small as we can go, because with my particular plan, bigger is better. I need 15,000 square feet to just fit all the equipment in, right, and have enough to be sure that we are self-sustaining.
It takes a lot of space to make things.
Right.
It really does.
And so, so he had 3,000 square feet. And so I'm like, yeah, cool. It was great. The deal he wanted to make with us, the fact that he was excited and we had a space, cool. But I knew that all of our stuff won't even fit in here.
Where's this location?
It's at the corner of Capitol and Benton in Iowa City. So we set up the deal, and because we had zero money really, there's a big chicken and egg scenario that had to go on. You need the money to open, but you need to open to get the money. So luckily, it was the right time of year to start advertising summer camps. So knowing I would have a space, I hired teachers. We wrote a curriculum. I came up with the ideas. We hired the teachers, but I, had to walk them through it because our teaching method is not the usual one.
Mm-hmm. A little more Montessori, perhaps.
Yeah, it's definitely self-led. We say, here's the goal, go. Mm-hmm. And then the kids figure out how to go from there. So I hired the teachers, we wrote curriculum, we advertised the classes, and we had people signing up and paying for summer camps for a place that we didn't have permission to use yet from the city.
Didn't you learn your lesson the first time?
Right. But, but the city, there have been, I don't want to make it sound like the city's been against us. There have been huge support from the city. And there continues to be. But we had to dot the I's and cross the T's, you know. I did learn my lessons, and I had to learn a crash course in business stuff and city politics and that kind of thing. But,
imagine.
What can you do?
Yeah.
So anyway, we got enough money for the down payment, the rent and everything. We moved in on May 3rd. And we opened on June 2nd, the first day of summer camps. We got the certificate of approval, like, I think May 30th. So it was on the wire. But when all the kids came in our first day, everything was in place. The computer lab was running. It was a fully functioning fab lab in a month.
Wow.
So, and with all volunteer help too. I can't pay anybody. So, well, I did pay the teachers, and I still do. But yeah, the amount of stuff we had to do to make 3,000 square feet where you can make anything in 1 month is, I'm not even sure how we did it.
Yeah.
And of course, the good thing about a makerspace is that you can improve it. So
well, it's never done.
Yeah, people don't expect it to be done. There's always something new. So, so if it looked a little raw, well, that's part of it. If you don't like that thing, then make something that you'd like better.
Sure.
So yeah, we started there and started getting members and have built up, in the 80s worth of memberships and
so you're still there now in that
still
same
there
space.
Now. Yeah. And our summer camps are about twice as popular as this year, and a lot of that, I think, I'm not putting down anyone else's summer camps, but we don't have a curricula we buy. I come up with cool ideas that I would want to do when I was 12, and then I hire teachers or engineering students and I say, do that thing. And then we figure out how to do it. So that sounds amazing, and I'm so disappointed I didn't get my kids enrolled. Well, there's still space.
Is there really?
For some of them, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. So you still got what, like 12,000 less square feet than you really want, though?
Yes,
don't you?
We do, and we keep on getting more donations, as you probably know. We now have we own our own truck trailer. We have a few board members who have pole barns and stuff, which are full of our stuff, and I had to rent a second storage unit last week to fit more things. And there's stuff in houses and in museums and in other storage units that people have donated that we simply don't have room for. So luckily, we're at the point where we're looking into buying our permanent space, and it's going well. We just have to convince the bank that we're a good enough risk, and we're close to it. Within the next week, I think.
You already found the spot? We've
got the spot. We've been talking to the owner for about 6 months. Everything is set except we need pretty much $300,000 to get it, because, like I said, I want to buy it. I don't want to have to ask permission if it's blow up hydrogen day. I got you. So if I buy the space, then it's my space. And
where is this one?
It's on Hines Road in Iowa City. So kind of,
out by the factories, P&G and all that.
Yeah, where Restore is, we're kind of right behind that.
Okay.
Next to Scott Boulevard. And so there were lots of criteria for it. This is for everybody, and I can't stress it enough. There have been people who said, well, why don't you just raise your prices? Make it a place for rich white guys. Cool. That's the opposite of what I want to do. So the space is right across the street from a bus line. The mall bus line will stop every hour, every day except Sunday. So anyone without a car can get to the Fab Lab. It's in a part of town that is industrial, so we can open and do everything. Mm-hmm. But it's also very close to a large portion of people who don't have any services out there. I mean, there's a lot of people who live down on that side, and they have to drive downtown to get to the nearest, whatever it is. And there's a lot of people that will be surprised to hear this, but about 20% of Iowa City likes going downtown, and the other 80% avoid it as much as they can.
That sounds about right to me.
Like
especially on game day.
Yeah, there's game day, there's parking. You have to pay for the parking. You have to, And my big argument, because I do get a lot of people who say, "Well, why don't you build downtown somewhere?" And that offer has been made, but we turned it down. I want to be away from downtown because, say, you want to reupholster your couch. Are you going to drive the truck into a parking ramp with a couch and then park and then pick up that couch and carry it 4 blocks and then go up some stairs and then, it
never work. Yeah.
Yeah. You need the space. Yeah. That's the biggest thing I've learned is more than the tools, the space. That's what you need. So by not being downtown, but being in Iowa City and on a bus line, we're still very accessible, and we're even actually more accessible to half of Iowa City than we would be if we were downtown. So my plan is to give people as much access as possible. So our prices are as low as we can make them, and if we suddenly are as successful as I think we are going to be, I'll probably be able to drop prices. One of the reasons I made it a non-profit. If I'd made it a for-profit, we would have been open 4 years ago because angel investors would have thrown me money. But angel investors usually don't support nonprofits because they're not investing. Although any angel investors listening, you would profit from my nonprofit. So talk to me because I could use a couple $100,000.
Well, let it be heard across the fruited plain.
Right.
Let me ask you a couple more questions, and I really want to get into some details about how we find you, find your facility, find a website, and all that business. But before we go there, what do you want this to do for people? How do you see this changing people's lives? What is the quintessential success story of someone who gets involved with this place?
I'd like to think that I'm the quintessential success story. I mean, like I said, I lucked out. I won the lottery, the life lottery. I found my wife, and she's amazing, and she allowed this to happen. She was able to support us throughout all of this, and she believed in me. I mean, having someone who can believe in you that much, I tear up every time.
The way you see it playing out, let's say, is it that somebody with very little experience, but maybe some interest in learning how to use tools and make things, comes to you, signs up, becomes a member, and learns some skills that allow them to then what?
One of the things that you see over and over again is the largest success stories are people who didn't finish college or didn't go to college. And I'm not saying don't go to college, kids. That's a very, very good thing to do. I would not be here if I didn't get my engineering degree. I had these crazy ideas before, but no one listened to me until I had that piece of paper. But, I could have done this when I was 12. Not as well, but, but no one listened. And so I will listen. Before I was an engineer, I still had this mind. I just didn't know as much math.
Well said.
And by the time you're 8, you're as intelligent as you're going to be. You just don't have enough knowledge. So everybody is a genius. This is my favorite quote. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking that it's stupid. So someone believed in me, and here we are. And so I believe in you, in whoever you are. You've got this amazing talent, and I don't care if you have been cooking fries at McDonald's for 8 years, or you are an engineer at Rockwell Collins. Both of you should come in and use the CNC machine, because everyone has those ideas. Everyone has those what ifs. Everyone needs to fix a kitchen chair, or is always thought of making a Roomba for the lawn, which they do have, by the way, now. And those kind of things. Everyone has these ideas, and like we talked about in the beginning, everyone needs to build. It's a primal need. And you'd be amazed at how much better you feel when you've accomplished something, not when you go and buy the little kit and you put together your IKEA furniture. That's building, but it's really not the same as
it's assembling,
creating.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyone will tell you how, when you held up that picture and you showed your mom what you colored, and it was a purple dinosaur when you were 4, you were so proud of that.
Right.
And it was a crappy dinosaur, I'll tell you. And they stuck it on the fridge anyway, because look at what you created.
Yeah.
And you felt, look at what I created. And then we grow up and we start not creating things because someone somewhere that we don't care about might not like that.
Yeah.
So we stop because social pressure says, why would you make that thing? You can go buy that thing. And look, that thing has been made by engineers, and engineers are smarter than you, is the kind of...
That's the subtext. Yeah.
So they're not. Engineers aren't smarter than me. I mean, I'm an engineer, but before I was an engineer, they weren't smarter than me. Some of them were. Some of them, I can tell you, are probably not smarter than me, because I've met a lot of engineers by now. There are people who are dumb as a box of rocks, but are really good at taking tests where you fill in dots or saying the right thing to the right person. And they become, really successful people, even though they don't really have the qualifications. And then there are people who are amazing at something and never get the chance. This is a way to even it out. So everyone has access. I don't care who you are. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, those values really speak to me. And I really hope that this is a rousing success, that your membership goes through the roof, that you're not too long from now looking at 100,000 square feet.
It's only 45,000.
I want you to grow, man. I hope that this really takes off. And I really think I can foresee, I see this in my work where somebody gets a skill and finds a job that they find meaning in, and it really changes them. I stop seeing them at that point.
Right.
Somebody who's really been struggling and having a difficult time, maybe they go back and they get their certificate in journeyman carpentry, or they get a plumbing degree or a computer science degree or something. And then all of a sudden they've got a reason to get out of bed. They feel useful. They feel like their own sense of contribution matters, and they have a belief then in their own competence. That's just so huge, just to get up and go, I know how to do this. I know what I'm being asked to do today, and I'm good at it, and I'd like to get better at it, and it makes the world a better place, and I can support my family. That's a huge thing. So even if you can give a lot of people a little bit of confidence, you don't have to teach them all to be master hand-cut dovetail carpenters, but you can give them confidence, just like this little girl. I can do this. I can work at Microsoft.
That's the biggest thing. I try and kind of...
Or start Microsoft, I should say. Sorry, I don't mean to limit anybody.
Yeah, but I like to talk about bites of knowledge. We're in Iowa City, where there's Kirkwood Community College. There's the University of Iowa. There are a lot of colleges around here. We're 4 hours away from almost every Big Ten school, and then there are all of those smaller colleges, and there are all those degree programs and certifications and all that stuff. And I am not trying to compete with any of them. What we're doing is giving you the bite of knowledge. So, to kind of digress a bit, when you become a member, you learn basics and safety for free. We'll teach you that. But then there are other classes taught by anyone. You can come in and teach a class and get paid to do it at our Fab Lab on whatever you want. And so if you've always wanted to learn to weld, That doesn't mean you want to go and get a welding certificate, but it also means that unless you know the right person, you're never gonna know.
Yeah.
Like it's a $700 rig,
Right.
and that's a cheap one. So you're gonna go and buy that to see if you do like it? No. Are you gonna
Boy, that's
go
a good
to a
point.
welding
Yeah.
business and say, hey, can you let me light some stuff on fire and melt some metal?
I see this. People get 5 years and $100,000 into some training program and then discover they don't like it.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
And you can help weed that out early.
I had a prosthetics internship my senior year, and I learned that I don't want to build prosthetics. Now I still want to make prosthetics. I didn't want to build someone else's designs, though. It was rewarding, of course, but I learned at the 0 hour that I didn't like it. Also, my degree says that I can tell someone how they should weld, and I've held a welding torch for maybe 20 minutes of my life. But my piece of paper says that I should be good at it, and that's not the case. So yeah, you can come in and you can learn how to do this one thing: how to weld a set of candlesticks, how to build a birdhouse, how to make a kitchen chair, how to sew a pillow, how to make a handbag, how to laser cut Christmas ornaments, just millions of things. And it depends on who's coming in to teach, and you get that bite of knowledge and you say, that was cool, and I never have to touch another hammer again.
Mm-hmm.
Or that was amazing, I'm going to become a member so I can build my own law. But you now know. And as you come in and you see, so many guys come in and they're like, well, I'm like, here's a sewing room, and they very politely don't roll their eyes at me. But, do you like clothing? Do you like upholstery? If you're a car guy, do you like things made out of carbon fiber?
Jimmy DiResta sews, baby.
Right? Like every skill is a good skill. And there's nothing, I would argue that one of the best skills you could have is knowing how to sew a button on, because you're in a hotel somewhere for whatever reason and a button falls off of your good clothes or whatever. Like, well, I hope that someone knows how to sew this thing. It's a 3-minute process, but if you roll your eyes at it. So yeah, bite of knowledge. We're not competing with the university or the Kirkwood or anything. We are just giving you the chance to learn if you like it, and if you do, to continue at it.
What I love about this story is that you're a man of humble beginnings. You've paid your dues. You've been on food stamps. You've worked a day job, done the grunt work, and you had a vision, and you took big risks, and you've just put one foot in front of the other. And this is what our world needs. This is exactly what our world needs. And people that listen to this, if you've got dreams, and if you've got ideas of your own, things that you want to start or whatever, I mean, listen to this story and say, well, maybe I could do this. And you know what? Sometimes we fail, and you've had your setbacks.
Oh, I've failed so much.
Yeah, exactly. But that hasn't stopped you. And so is it really failure? Is it really failure, or is it just a step where you obtain some crucial piece of information that you need to proceed?
Yeah.
And so I see that all over this story. And, you're a young man, and you're poised to give back to this community for God knows how many years into the future. And God bless you. I think this is fabulous, and I just wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit more before we wrap it up here. What is the name again, slowly, of this? What's your website? How do people get in contact with you? Are you the guy to get in contact with, et cetera, donations and all that?
Sure. So it is the Steam Fab Lab. Fab Lab, short for Fabrication Laboratory. steamfablab.org or steamiowacity.org will get you there. Or you can type in Makerspace in Iowa City, or laser cutter in Iowa City, or whatever in Google, and we'll pop up. The phone number and everything is, of course, on the website. You can email me. It's just Kirk, Kirk, at steamfablab.org. We've got several other staff members as well. There's you need to know something about summer camps at steamfablab.org.
That sounds so awesome.
So, we take all sorts of donations, although I will throw out there that we have to be slightly choosy sometimes. Like if you're like, hey, I need to donate my 3,000 coffee filters, like I have 3,000 square feet and I had to rent another storage space for equipment. I don't have room to just hold things yet. But I love the upcycling idea. So offer them to me. And if I can take them, or if there's a reason to take a thing, I will. It doesn't have to be equipment, although we love getting equipment.
What do you need? If you had a wish list, what right now, what's on the top of that?
Top of that, we're in the new space. We're going to need a lot more computers for one, but they have to be good. They can't be like, oh, I got this old computer kicking around.
Right.
They need to be able to run some good software and that kind of thing. So we need computers. Money is always great.
So if you went to Costco
money.
and bought a $500 computer off the shelf, would that do the trick?
That would totally do the trick. Yeah. We need kind of some of the smaller things. Like it's strangely common to get someone saying, hey, I've got an old router. I've got an old table saw. I've got an old blah. No one ever says like, here's 30 pairs of pliers. Here's some hammers. Here's a half box of nails or screws. Here's the regular stuff that anybody has.
Well, this is a no-brainer, everybody. Go to your garage and get all those half-used boxes of whatever that you did to build the play set, and you put them in a bag and bring them on over.
Right, but not the scraps of wood unless they're good wood. Yeah, I don't need a lot of ends of 2x4s.
Yes, nobody does.
But when we move to our new spot, if I can I list the things we've got versus the things we will have? Do we have time
Sure,
for that?
absolutely, man.
So what we've got right now is we have a full wood shop. We have about half a metal shop because we're small and you shouldn't mix hot metal with wood shavings. We have a little bit of welding, TIG and stick. We have a large CNC machine and a small CNC machine. We have 2 laser cutters, a computer lab, robotics and electronics. We have a sewing and crafting room. We have 4 3D printers, 3 of them filament-based, 1 fluid-based, that can do jewelry quality stuff. We have a stained glass studio. We have some jewelry working equipment. And then we've got a lot of odds and ends bouncing around and stuff. And with the stuff that we have already, you can pretty much build anything. You have to kind of be creative sometimes and whatever, but you can. In the new space, we've got 3,000 square feet now. The space we're going to buy is 45,000 square feet. So roughly half the size of Costco. In that space, we'll have 2 separate wood shops. One that we can use for teaching, but the other one is open so that if you're in the middle of a project, you're not kicked out while we're teaching. We'll have a standing and painting room. We'll have welding. We'll have a small auto section, not an auto shop, but a place you can tinker with your car. Excuse me. We'll have a metal working area, sheet metal and that kind of thing. We'll have a jewelry studio. We'll have a lapidary studio for cutting and shaping rocks and jewels. We'll have a ceramic studio. Let's see, what else? We will have a painting area, like for artist painting, and a painting area for like spray painting things that's nice and ventilated and everything. We'll have a quilting machine that's large enough to do a full-size, a king-size quilt, start to finish in 32 minutes. Wow. We'll have a crafting area and a few other regular quilting machines and that kind of thing. We'll have a computer lab, robotics lab, electronics lab. We'll have 5 different classrooms. We'll have a teaching kitchen. We'll have a garden and a greenhouse in the back. We will have conference rooms and a coffee shop and a small kind of food deli thing. We'll have a place you can buy the things you need. So things like, wood that you'd use on the laser cutter and a few nails and screws and things like that. We're not going to be Lowe's by any stretch, but the common things people always need, you'll be able to get there. Let's see, we'll have a childcare area, not daycare, but if you're a member and you have kids, you can bring them in and they'll be in a safe, protected child environment that is, staffed and watched, so you can go use the bandsaw while they're safe and happy. We'll have child programming. We'll have a open space that you can rent per day, about 2,500 square feet for Robot Wars or a art gallery or a wedding or a movie viewing or a concert or whatever you want.
You're blowing my mind. I hope this all happens exactly like you're saying it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And the real reason we need all that space, besides the 15,000 square feet or so of tools, there's going to be, about 15,000 square feet of tools and bays. There'll be about 15,000 square feet of space that is pretty much open to the public. You don't have to be a member to come in and have coffee at our coffee shop. You don't have to be a member to come in and rent the gallery space or anything like that. But and you can always come in and take classes as a non-member. That's how we get new members. Every 10 or so people that come in as for a class, one of them says, "Wow, this is cool," and they become a member. Yeah.
So you don't have to sign up for any long-term situation for you to get a taste of what you guys are
you
about.
Don't. And we're also month to month too. So you can sign up for membership and cancel the next month too. Mm-hmm. Like we had several people who did that. Like in the Christmas thing, they had one project, and so they became a member so they could, build the things they needed, and then they didn't need us anymore, so they canceled the membership. Now, I don't recommend that. We do,
you need some cash flow.
We make our money on members, but
right.
The cool thing is, for as little as $25 a month, you can come in if you need us. Like there are a lot of people that just sometimes need a bandsaw. You don't need it enough to buy it yourself. You don't have the space to do it. You're in an apartment. A third of Iowa City is in an apartment. They can't have a bandsaw. There's no place to put it. So you can have a membership, get the training for free. And then if you need it, there it is. And, so that's, for less than $1 a day, you've got that insurance.
Yeah. You clear all these barriers to entry for people, the space piece, the financial piece, the diversity of tools and all that you need.
But yeah, so anyway, 15,000 tool shops, 15,000-ish open for everyone, generally speaking. And then the other 10 to 15,000 is rental spaces. So say you are in an apartment, but you love working in a wood shop or whatever. You have your own projects and they're not like one-day things. You need to spread out, let glue dry, all that.
Yeah.
We have 50 to 125 square foot spaces that you can rent. Again, monthly. There's no long-term.
Lockable? You put it in there and just shut the door.
Your lockable own workspace.
Sweet.
And you don't need to put equipment in it because all of it is right there. So you can start your own business using the Fab Lab. You don't have to be sneaky about it. You can sell anything you make there. Come in. So you get a full membership, the largest space that we've got, and start your own business. The spaces include electricity and gas and heat and air conditioning and all of that stuff. That's just, you're paying for that with your rent. So you can start your business with the highly technical tools that you need or whatever for $600 a month. And you may be renting 125 square feet, but you have effectively 15,000 square feet of equipment to use and 125 square feet to put your stuff
Right.
when you're done.
And not only are you starting a business, but you're going to bump into other people that know more than you do.
Right.
And you're going to learn what not to do much quicker than if you were trying to hammer all this stuff out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You've got resources of all kinds in the form of other people's minds.
All those different ideas and stuff, and
Right.
the synergy that comes along with it.
Yeah.
And we're also slightly designed so that you outgrow us. You know, you always wanted to be a cabinet maker, and you make your own shop, and you're tooling along, and a couple of years down the road, like, I don't let you rent 3 spaces, you know, like that's
Right.
You know, so at some point,
Yeah, you shoo them out of the nest.
you get to go out on your own. You've
right.
proven that you can do it, and now we are too small for you.
Right.
So we're creating innovation. We're also creating businesses. So we're changing the face of Iowa City.
I hope
that's
so.
my hope.
I think it can. I really do. I'm sure you've changed people's lives already.
I'm trying.
It's a fabulous idea. Well, hey, thank you for taking the time. We'll definitely stay in touch, and I'm rooting for you, and want to be helpful in whatever way I can. So,
awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks for coming by, and a great interview. I think this will really be fun for people to hear about, and there's going to be some things in here that really inspire people to take a look at what they're doing with their lives and see if there's ways they can engage, kind of up level in this arena. So
I hope so. We should hear very soon. And once I can say officially, then I'll start shouting it from the rooftops.
thanks, Kirk.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. That was my interview with Kirk Cheyney. I hope that was inspiring to you, and it certainly was to me. I think stories like this really represent a lot of the values that we're trying to promote here on this podcast in terms of really taking initiative, taking ownership for your own life, making decisions in accordance with a larger cause that benefits the people around us. This is a guy who could just have taken the easy road, stayed in a nice, comfortable job, had an upper middle class lifestyle, but he took a major financial risk, and he really struck out in ways that I admire. And I think he's going to be successful, and it sounds like he already is. So thanks a lot for listening, and tune in next time.